Welcome to the Ex-Boyfriend Recovery Podcast, where we help you get your ex back and have the fairy tale ending you deserve. And now, your host. He's been dubbed as the Ex-Whisperer, Chris Sider.
Okay, so today we've got Sophia on the line. Now, Sophia is really got an interesting story because she actually got her ex back. She's a part of our private Facebook group. A lot of our success stories I've noticed get spawned from there, probably because that we work a lot one-on-one with people and give them advice through Facebook Lives, and people are getting advice talking to each other. But we wanted to get her on the podcast so we can figure out what the heck she did to get her ex back. So how are you doing today, Sophia?
I'm doing great.
Okay, so story time. Tell us exactly how the breakup kind of occurred, and also how you found ex-boyfriend recovery, and basically take me up to present day. What did you do to get him back?
So the breakup happened over about a 3-month period of time. First, I got mad at him and just kind of blew up about this woman that was a really good friend of his.
Uh-oh. Hey, you have every right to be upset about that.
Yeah, she was a little bit too much in his life. And so I got really upset about it. I kind of lost my marbles over the whole thing, and just sort of one day got angry and left his place in sort of a fit of rage, I would say. And and at that point in time, I thought we were broke up, but he kept calling me and bugging me, and so we didn't want to break up with him. I cried a lot about it. And then he came over and we talked, and neither of us wanted to break up, and so we ended up staying together. And I mean, that happened over like a 2-day period, so it wasn't like we had a no contact or anything between that. And then we stayed together, but it still was like this constant tension. We had never solved the issue.
So it's the 500-pound elephant just sitting in the room that sort of he knows about, you know about, but no one wants to bring it up.
Right. And we just sat there for like 3 months until basically, because I was going through some of my own like personal stuff that was going on with me. And I think because of that, he decided that he wasn't going to break up with me during that time. And so, because I had some family stuff that was going on. And so he just decided to wait, I guess, out of kindness, that I'm going to wait till she gets through this and then I'll break up with her.
Okay.
And so then he actually drug me into counseling to break up with me. And
scared to do it then. Definitely scared to do it on his own.
He's like, I want to go to counseling. And I'm like, do you want to go to counseling? So we went to counseling, and when we got out of counseling, he's like, I don't want to break up with you because I want to stay your friend, because, I like all these things about you, but I just don't think it's working because we're fighting all the time because we were fighting all the time about this other person. And so he's like, it's just not working. I don't want to fight anymore. And so, I want to break up. So, and then, I don't know, he took and I was like, really, you want to break up? And okay, so you want to take me home now? And so he took me home, and then, we ended up.
That had to be an awkward drive home.
Well, it was. It was a very quiet, awkward drive home.
I imagine it was.
Luckily, it was only about 15 minutes.
Okay,
so
okay.
It wasn't too bad.
Okay.
And then he came back to my house. He kind of packed up some stuff. He didn't pack everything. He just took like a few things, and then he's kind of like, "Okay, I'll see you later." And I'm like, "All right." And then, we always had a very strong, passionate relationship.
Okay.
And we also had kind of like this jokiness to us that we always sort of like, kind of tease each other sort of thing.
I think we call that flirting. You're good at flirting.
He just, I don't know which one of us threw it out there, but we were like, so do you want to like do it one last time before we're like totally broke up?
Breakup sex. I like it.
We're like, okay. So, I've never done that before. So we, had breakup sex.
Okay, check that off the bucket list. Congratulations on your breakup sex.
And then, we both cried and said goodbye. And
this is one of the strangest breakups I've ever seen. It's like really awkward, and then you're having sex, and then you're just like, okay. I imagine the roller coaster of emotions you must have went through after making love was difficult to deal with.
Totally. Well, and then, of course, he had to come back and get more stuff. Because he was actually going to move in with me, and he had started moving stuff here.
Wow.
And so he had to come back with a truck and get stuff later. And so he came by and, picked up his things or whatever, and I just gave him a hug and we said goodbye and everything. But then I kind of lost it after about, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. I just completely lost it. And I didn't really know, who I was anymore at that point, I think, because I started doing really stupid things, like texting him all the time and like, I'm sorry, we can figure this out. Or try, I begged him basically to get back together, which was a total mistake. And by the way, before I got into your program.
I'm glad we straightened that behavior out. Now that brings me to my next question. So at one point, I'm assuming somehow you find our website. Do you just go to like Google, or are you like on YouTube, or are you listening to podcasts? How did you find us?
I don't know. I think I might have found it on Facebook. Maybe it was a Facebook ad or...
Really?
I'm not really sure. Maybe I Googled getting your ex back or something like that.
Okay.
I might have done that because he ended up like, I bugged him so much and he felt sad, but he was like, no, I made my decision, we're done. And so he got to the point where he blocked me. He here we were like friends and, nice breakup and everything. And then I just bugged the crap out of him.
Okay.
And then he blocked me. He blocked me on Facebook. He took me off, and he didn't just take me off as a friend. He blocked me. Like, I couldn't even
you can't
tell
even
if he
see
was alive
anything.
anymore.
Yeah.
Right. He blocked my phone number, so I couldn't get through to his phone because, I can tell that I couldn't get through. He had all of his family unfriend me on Facebook.
Ouch. That's a low blow.
He had his friends unfriend me on Facebook. And one of his friends, I was like, dude, why'd you unfriend me? And he's like, oh, I don't know, because, I just figured since you guys were broke up that I should probably not be your friend. And I'm like, well, that's silly because, I like what he did professionally. So I was like, we should keep in contact because, we have this professional interest together because we had stuff in common. He was married and everything and stuff, so I wasn't interested in him, but I just wanted to stay friends with him as a professional.
Makes sense. Business,
Yeah. So he actually refriended me, and we stayed friends.
Okay.
And And then
So you stole one of the friends back. The rest sided with him.
I stole one of the friends back, and I still had a few. I had a few friends that we actually had common friends in common before we met, and so those friends had stayed on my Facebook and on his, and so neither of us had done that. But then, like, some of my friends ended up unfriending him because they were mad at him for, breaking up with me. And, and so, we lost some mutual friends, but I think we kept about 5 mutual friends.
Wow.
So anyway, I found you guys, and I think I Googled it.
Okay.
Because I think at that point I was completely lost at what to do. I was an absolute mess. I wasn't able to do anything, and so I just Googled you guys, and I found you, and I started reading it every second that I had. I read your book.
That's nice.
And I was kind of in disbelief. I was sort of like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah. Everyone says that to me.
And I'm also thinking, how do I get this to work? Because, he's blocked me. He's never going to talk to me again. At that point in time, he told me to leave him alone, and he never wanted to talk to me again.
Ouch.
And, so we went from, if I would have just left it, I think, if I would have read the book first and left it, it wouldn't have taken me as long to get him back. I think it took me as long as it did to get him back because of what conspired over the next couple of months between when we broke up and when I actually started implementing the program.
So it's really interesting. I remember you showing up to a lot of Facebook Lives and asking questions. And what do you think worked for you out of every strategy that you tried? Where did you start seeing the progress? I'm assuming you did the no contact period, right?
Yes, I ended up, and I think it was your wife who told me I needed to go into a second no contact, because I did the 30 days.
Okay, 30 days.
What ended up I didn't end up actually completing the 30 days, but not on my fault. Okay. It was because I was trying to not, he finally unblocked me because I went totally silent, and I also didn't post anything on my Facebook in case he was having any of his friends that we were still common friends with, kind of stalking me to see if I was okay, and so I just went completely silent, and all of a sudden, after about 2 weeks of me not bothering him at all and not trying to get a hold of him, he finally reached out to me and was like, how you doing? You okay? Stuff like that. He kept sending me these little texts, hello, question mark, are you there? Are you alive? Things like that. And then I wouldn't respond. And so he got kind of, I think, worried about me. And so he started trying to call me. So I didn't answer the phone. And he finally left me a message that if I didn't call him back or respond to him, that he was going to drive over to my place and make sure I was okay.
Aww.
And so I was like, oh, crap. What am I supposed to do now? Am I just supposed to let him do that? I think maybe, because I was like, I don't remember if this was in the manual. So I was trying to figure out, I was like, am I supposed to leave if I know he's coming over? I don't know. So I was trying to figure out what to do. And in the meantime, he ended up calling me from an unknown number to my business line. And
Sneaky.
so I answered the phone because it was to my business line, and I get unknown numbers all the time from that.
Right.
And so I answered it, and he answered, or when I answered it, he's like, "So you are alive?" And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, "Why wouldn't you answer my texts or my phone calls? I've been worried sick about you." And I was like, "Oh, sorry. I just explained to him that I think I said something to the effect of, I just needed to take some time to heal, and talking to you wasn't going to help me do that. So, I just needed to take some time." And so when I explained that to him, I said, I'm probably going to, take another week or two, maybe longer. I don't know. And how about if I text you or call you when I'm ready to talk to you? And he was like, "Really? I can't even call and check in every couple days?" And I was like, no. And so, I think that kind of helped a little bit, to set a boundary like that, so that he knew that hey, I'm not just at your beck and call anymore because we're not going out. So, you broke up with me, so you don't get that privilege of just calling me anytime you want, and I'm just going to pick up the phone. So I think that probably helped a little bit.
Well, the interesting thing about that specifically is what you did is the boundary that you set is literally the definition of psychological reactance. So basically, removing someone's freedom, they're more likely to try to chase and get the freedom back. And so by setting that boundary of, hey, you can't talk to me at all, it just creates that perception of him chasing you or him having to chase to get that freedom back, and it sort of sets you apart and changes how he views you. So potentially that's why it worked. It's really interesting that it worked so well on him. He's probably no one's ever done that to him in a breakup before, is my bet, and that's why it kind of throws him off.
Probably, yeah. I think it kind of threw him off. He was, especially coming from me, who was just chasing after him.
Right. Such a 180.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, he's like, "Wait a minute." And so, anyway, then after my 30 days was over, I just kind of texted him something that was a common interest of both of ours, I, told him I was out doing something that he liked to do, and he responded right away. He was like, "Oh, nice," and, stuff like that. So he didn't always be the first one to text me. Okay. After that, I text him, just little things here and there. And I have to wait 3 or 4 days sometimes, to in between our little chats, so that I didn't, I wasn't bugging him
rush,
too much.
Right.
So, that's where I went from there.
Now, obviously, at one point, things really start to kick up here. What happens when things do start to increase?
Oh, well, I made a second EBR mistake.
Ooh, this is fun. I like the mistakes.
I did what I wasn't supposed to do, and
you bad girl.
We slept together. Yeah, we slept together. I don't remember how it happened. He invited me over to his place.
Never go over to his place. Ever.
Yeah, I know. Never go over to his place.
Well, maybe it worked for you, though.
Together.
I guess we'll find out.
No. That was bad because then he thought we were friends with benefits.
Yep. Tends to happen.
He treated me like friends with benefits. And I think he even used the FWB words,
he literally said friends with benefits.
I think he literally said, I think he texted me one day, how's my FWB or something like that. And I was like, oh, no. No. This is not what I wanted. And so I got upset.
I feel like there's a witty way to respond to that. Like, how's my FWB?
Yeah.
You could probably say, well, F you or something like that.
F you. Yeah. I don't know if that's how I should have responded, but yeah.
Thank God I'm not there. You know, usually I'm pretty good with the coaching thing, but I would totally come up with something like really inappropriate to say to that.
Yeah, I did not like that at all. It's not where I wanted to be. So
this is interesting. You're friends with benefits with him, or you don't consider yourself friends with benefits, but he does. So how did you get out of the friends with benefits zone?
Well, I had to go. Basically, I got mad at him again, and
start back at square one.
The whole, I just left one. So we went on this date. I don't remember what happened exactly, except for I think we started to kiss or something, and I was like, I just want you to know, if we're going to do this, it's not because we're friends with benefits, it's because we're back together. And he just stopped right there and he says, I don't want to get back together. And I was like, oh. So I put my stuff together and I left.
Oh, check you out, Sophia.
And
I love it. I love it.
I just said, I gotta go. I gotta go. And he was like, what? And I said, I gotta go. So I left in such a hurry that I'd forgotten my jacket. So
it's perfect. It's probably perfect.
So he was.
It's a constant reminder of you.
Down. Yeah, he calls me while I'm headed down the road, and he says, you forgot your jacket. And so I was like, oh, crap. And I needed my jacket because it's one of my only ones that I like. And so I drove back, because I was just like a half a block away. I turned around, drove back, and he left it outside his place.
Didn't want to talk to you at all. The man does not like confrontation.
I was completely shocked. Well, I walk up to his door and I pick up my jacket, and because he put it in a basket that's by his door, and I picked it up and I went walking back to my car, and he opens the door and he's like, what the heck are we doing? And I'm just like, bye. And I just got in my car and drove off. And so then I didn't talk to him for 21 days. And
So you do the 30-day rule. Things seem to be going well, but you slept with him, opened the Friends with Benefits door. He acknowledges the Friends with Benefits. You're in the middle of kissing him, and you do very wisely, in the middle of kissing him, you ask like kind of the commitment question, like, I want to know, we're not going to do this unless we're together. He says, I don't want to get back together. You immediately leave. You leave your jacket there. You come back for the jacket, and he says, what are we doing? And you just say bye and drive off. And then you start the 21-day rule.
Right.
Wow.
And
you've got a real interesting situation.
I told him on my way out, I'm not going to talk to you for a while. That's what I told him on the way out.
You kind of forewarned him a little bit. So he doesn't freak out and like show up or something. Yeah.
So this time he didn't chase after me, for the 21 days. He didn't chase after me. And, and then the 21 days was over about 5 days before his birthday. So I was trying to decide, do I wish him a happy birthday? What do I do? And so I can't even remember. I think I called him, actually. I did. I called him on his birthday, and I just said, I just called to wish you a happy birthday. You know, want you to know, no hard feelings or anything, you know, and I'm okay. And then he talked to me for, I don't know, probably 10 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. And he's not a big phone talker anyway. But, you know, we talked for a little bit. And, you know, he was like, I thought you were never going to talk to me again. And I said, I didn't say I was never going to talk to you again. I said I wasn't going to talk to you for a while. And he was like, oh, okay. All right. And then he said to me again, you know, I still don't want to get back together. And I was like, oh, man, stab the spirit of my heart.
Oh.
You know,
well, you should have said as well, neither do I. F you or something. No, I'm just kidding.
I think I actually did, which was a big lie. Because I did want to get back together, but I think I did actually say, well, neither. I don't either. I don't think that's a good idea right now. I think that's what I said.
Well, that's a political answer. Right, it's a very political answer. We'll just agree on that.
Right. So, anyway, then I think that just kind of opened the door, and you know, I sort of text him but keep my distance, you know, and he was very, very, very slow at that point. So that was September. That was September.
Okay.
And so that was a while ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it took several months from there, and I got very frustrated. I, thought, oh, this is never going to happen. He's just going to string me along.
Oh, am I wasting my time? Yeah.
He wastes my time, things like that. Oh, I totally forgot part of the story in the meantime. After I told him I wasn't going to talk to him anymore, 1 week after I told him I was not going to talk to him anymore, one of my friends saw him on an online dating site.
The plot thickens.
I was devastated. I was just absolutely devastated.
Did you, by any chance, because I always get asked that question, like, oh, I saw my ex on an online dating thing. Were you one of the ones that asked me that? You probably did.
Maybe. I probably did, because I was like, what do I do? Do I say something? Do I not say something? And I think the advice was just don't say anything.
Correct.
Just let him do.
Well,
let him do what he's going to do.
Yeah, let him do what he's going to do. So,
yeah,
let's kind of speed things up and get to the goods here. Eventually, things are kind of going slow a little bit. You're kind of advancing slowly. When do things kick into overdrive for you? When's the turning point of when he starts to become a little bit more open to a relationship as opposed to just friends with benefits?
Well, I didn't think he was. I seriously, until about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I really actually thought, we are just going to stay friends. I am in the friend zone, and this is not going anywhere.
Okay.
Because
it's a long time to kind of be in there. You're a patient woman.
It was a long time.
A very long time.
He would do little things here and there. Like, so I think I sent you a message or somebody a message, asked a question. Maybe it was on the live. But I asked somebody a question. I'm like, okay. If a guy is messaging you good morning and good night, good morning and
yes,
good night.
I remember this question.
You remember that?
I remember it, yes. And you're like, is it a good sign?
That was all I would get.
And did I say something to the effect of like, well, that means you're the first thing he thinks about and the last thing he thinks about every day.
Right, yes. And then I think Anna asked her boyfriend, do guys ever do this? Do they wish a girl good morning and good night if they're not considering it? Because I've never had a guy do that who didn't want to date me, right?
Right.
So
that's kind of a big deal.
This went on for like a month and a half. Good morning, good night, maybe a little bit here and there in between, and then he'd ask me on a date about once a month.
It's very boyfriend consistent, like, isn't it? Were you?
Oh, I was like,
so
okay, yeah.
When you're kind of in the friend zone, were you kissing? How far did things go as far as romantically? No. Holding hands,
no.
anything like that?
No.
Wow.
No physical contact. No, because we had this thing. If we touched each other, we'd be naked 5 seconds later. So,
well, it's just funner that way.
We could not touch each other, or we would be in trouble. So we just, hung out, did stuff, but not too much. We never hung out alone in his apartment. Never hung out there alone. We never I don't even think we held hands or anything. That's why I thought I was stuck in the friend zone.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, but then he'd do this thing like wish me good morning and wish me good night and things like that. And then one night he invited me out to dinner, and I thought, well, that's interesting because that's like a real date. Like these other dates were just sort of like, hey, let's go do something like friends.
Let's go to McDonald's.
Right. It was kind of like, let's go
to the steakhouse or something.
It was all kind of like friend stuff, things that you do with your friends.
Okay, so you're going to a romantic
guy friend date.
So he's asked you
not romantic at all.
So he's asked you on a romantic dinner is what he's done.
Right.
Gotcha.
Well, I didn't think it was because he said, hey, you want to meet me for a beer? Let's go have a beer. And so I was like, okay, So I go and meet with him. And we're at this place that's sort of, I'm going to say, it's not very romantic friendly because it's like these hard tables and kind of, party-ish atmosphere, sort of. But there's one little corner of it that's a little nook with like these really cozy couches. And he's sitting in this little cozy nook when I walked in. And he's like, is this okay? I figured it's kind of, quiet and cozy so we could sit here. And I was like kind of surprised. And
was your heart beating like really fast when you realized like?
Oh yeah, I was like
the butterflies are like really taking hold.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this isn't really happening. So I sat down and we just kind of started talking, catching up, and on some things, and then he brought up like the elephant.
Okay.
And he's like, I want you to know what I went through when we broke up, and I never really wanted to break up, but I felt like I had to, and all this other stuff. And then he kind of went through all of his emotions for it, and I was sort of like, is he telling me this because like we're never going to see each other again, or is he telling me this because he wants to get back together? And it kind of never resulted in either one of those. It was just like he just wanted to get it off his chest, I think, because he needed to go through some healing. And so anyway, he finished that. We ended up having a good rest of the night chatting about other stuff and joking around about things and stuff like that. And then we said goodnight. Still didn't kiss me, gave me a hug.
Progress, though. Progress.
Yes, a nice long hug.
Okay.
So I got this very nice long hug from him, and then I went home. And then when I got home, he texted just crazy text back. I text him back. He texted me back. We have I think we had a 2-hour texting back and forth.
Those are the best.
And then right before I went to bed, he calls me. I'm like, wow, this is the most contact I've had with him in a month, you know? And so he did that, and then he went away again. Back to good morning, good night. Good morning, good night. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't take this anymore. And so I actually started dating again a little bit. So you
went on a few dates?
I went on a few dates with some other people because I was like, I'm just so frustrated and I don't want to blow it, but I don't, you know. So I just little dates, nothing physical with these other people or anything, just like, you know, go out, meet somebody, have a good time. And then, I don't know, it was like as if he got wind that I was going on these dates. And then he started just stopping by my house whenever he wanted to.
Okay.
And one time he stopped by when there was actually another guy that was interested in dating me here.
Perfect.
And I was
competition.
Like, oh.
I love it.
But I didn't introduce him that way. I was just like, oh, hey, you know. And so anyway, he stayed for all of like 2 seconds when that happened. So
did he actually see the other guy?
Oh yeah, he actually saw the other guy,
and he just bolted out of there.
And he bolted.
That's
and
great.
He laughed, and I called him later. I'm like, did you like stop by because you wanted to talk, or you wanted to, you know, hang out, or you know, you were there for like 2 seconds, and he's like, oh no, I just you know, was in the area. I just thought I'd say hi, and I was like, okay, nobody really comes in the area over where I live.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is totally out of his way. I don't know what was going on, but I was like, okay, I hope I didn't screw that up by having this other person here. But obviously, I think it actually worked in my favor.
Definitely.
And yeah. So anyway, long story short, he kept doing the good morning, good night thing. And I just kind of kept being there, I guess. Like, okay, you know, whatever. And not chasing him. And I just decided the last month before we got back together, I just was like, I am not going to text him anymore.
He's just going to have to text me.
I'm not going to reach out to him. I'm just going to if he wants to text me, he can text me. If he wants to call me, he can call me. If he wants to ask me out on a date, he'll ask me out on a date. But I am not going to chase him whatsoever. I am done, like, reaching out. And I was just done. I was like, I think I'm done. And it was like at that point, all of a sudden there was like this switch. And he started bugging me even more. And, you know, asking me how my day was. You know, all of a sudden, like, more boyfriendish, right?
Mm-hmm. And
still keeping up with the good morning, good night, but they were getting cuter, like, you know, with cute things instead of just good morning or good night or whatever. And he'd send like pictures and stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, he's kind of warming up here. We'll see what happens. And then it just, I don't know what I did. I think that probably me doing nothing was actually the thing that worked.
Well, I think some interesting things occurred just from listening to the story and everything. The competition, you know, of him seeing the other guy, he immediately bolts, but that's the kind of thing when you see that sticks with you. So you already know, okay, well, Sophia is sort of dating around. So that's probably in the back of his mind. And then the fact that you're no longer starting to text him first kind of creates a little bit of urgency. So, you know, he sees you with another dude and starts to worry that he may potentially lose you to the guy. And then you not texting him first creates urgency because now it's sort of like, well, maybe she's really into this other guy. or maybe she's got some other guy because she's not texting me first like she used to, so it creates urgency. And that urgency and that fear of loss can combine to create an action, and the action is to try to lock you down, or at least to probe a little bit into your dating life. Did, by any chance, did he probe into your dating life at all after these things occurred? Did he like kind of poke around to see what was going on?
He like, you know, would say little things like, are you, you know, so were you out on a date, or he'd ask me who took the picture. Like, I'd send him a picture
Excellent.
of me, and he'd be like, who took the picture? You know, like he'd be like,
he's
what
probing.
are you doing? And so I'd send him a picture of what I was doing, and he'd be like, who took the picture? You know, he'd be like, well, where's this? You know, I don't understand. That's not a selfie.
Yep. he's probing around to see if there's some other guy in the picture. So that probably is a constant thought he's having. And ultimately an action was his problem, right? So you've got this guy who originally, if you go way back in time to your first no contact rule, things seem to be going pretty great after that no contact rule, and then you slept with him, and then you create that friends with benefits situation. Well, the inaction is he's not committing to you. He's got the friends with benefits, and he's just running away with that. Well, if you want him to take an action to commit to you, you need to create urgency, scarcity, fear of loss. You need to ensure that he's satisfied. You need to ensure that there's no better alternatives out there. And it seems to me like you may not realize that you did it, but I think you did. You created that fear of loss just simply by him walking in on you with the other guy. Like, that had to be an important moment. Whether he realizes it or not, that's when the idea gets planted into his head that you're not waiting around for him.
Yeah, I think you're right, because that's when he started kind of coming after me more, asking me out more, and then
it seems counterintuitive.
You know, like, hey, can I?
Doesn't it? Like
what's that?
Well, I mean, just think about it. Him walking in on you during another date seems counterintuitive. Like, if you're trying to get someone back, you're not trying to get the guy on the date back, ultimately. You're trying to get your ex-boyfriend back at the time. But you would think, like, as a strategy, that is the worst thing that you could potentially do, because guess what? If he sees that, he could run the other way. But actually, my research has suggested...
That's what I was afraid of.
Well, my research suggests the opposite actually occurs. That I've seen this actually strangely with men. So men, if they can accidentally invite their ex-girlfriend on a like hangout where there's another girl and create some sort of competition, the results are almost always excellent. And it seems like that's kind of what happened to you by a happy accident. And that's when the idea gets planted into his head, and you handle it brilliantly without maybe even realizing it. So it could be a stroke of luck. It could be a stroke of brilliance. Let's just say brilliance, because you're a smart woman.
Or good luck. Either one, because I didn't invite him over. I mean, he just stopped by out of the blue, and it was just weird. But you know, I think you're right. I think it did kind of push him to do a little bit more. And, so then he just started asking me out more. And, like, in one weekend, he was like, Friday night, he wanted to do something. He asked me to do something with him Friday night. Oh, he asked me to go to a work function with him. And that, for me, was like,
this is girlfriend material. This is like, you don't invite just someone to these kind of things, especially work.
Yeah. Right. You don't just invite anybody to a work function. So he invited me to this work function, and that's, you know, when we were at the work function, he introduced me as his friend, you know, but he didn't really treat me like his friend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, he treated me more like a girlfriend, because he like, you know, bought me drinks and then he, you know, he introduced me to some people, and we were kind of talking and stuff like that, like as if we were boyfriend and girlfriend. And, you know, he was also very protective of this other person that started flirting with me. And so he was like, hey, you know, what are you doing? And, you know, stuff like that. He's like, hey, you flirting with my friend or something like that. And yeah, so it was sort of cute. And, you know, and then we went home from that, and then the next day he wanted to see me again. So he's like, hey, maybe I'll stop by if that's okay tomorrow. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. So then he stopped by, and we went for a walk together. And then when we were done with the walk, usually I'm lucky if I see him once a month, right, is what I'm thinking. I'm like, oh, we'll see each other once a month. I'll see him again in another month, right? and then when we were done with the walk, he said, well, what are you doing later this evening? You want to come by? I'll make some dinner. And I was like, okay, sure. So I went over to his house, and we had dinner, and that's when I don't know, we were joking about something, and he, you know, he made some comment about something that always bugged him about me or something like that. And I just said, "Aw," I said, "You used to love me," and he kind of looked sort of sheepishly at me, and he says, "I still love you." Aww. And I was like, "Really? You still love me?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then I was like, you know, that was it. And then we just I think we were watching a movie or something when that was going on.
Oh, I see where this is happening.
In between.
All right.
So we finished watching. Then he reached over and grabbed my hand, and we held hands through the rest of the movie. And I'm like, wow, we're not like jumping on each other. This is weird. So I'm like, okay, we're just gonna hold hands. So we held hands, and then I had to go. And so, because I had somebody watching my kids, so I had to go. And I'm like, okay, I have to go now. And so he was kind of like, oh, okay. And I gave him a hug. We didn't get a kiss that night either. And I left. And then the next weekend we got together again and did something. He wanted to hang out again the next weekend. And that's when, you know, we were watching something else, you know, and he's like, you're not really watching this, are you? And I'm like, no, not really. 'Cause we kept looking over and watching each other. And so that's when, you know, he started showing me, he's like, I want to show you something. So he's like showing me all this stuff about what he wants to do in the future, and he's making all these plans, and he's like, we're going to go do this, and we're going to go do that, and we're going to go do this. And I looked at him, and I said,
who are you?
and he's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, oh, we're going to do this together. Like, we're together. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay.
So that's it. That's how you got him back.
That's how I got him back. It was like
that's a crazy story.
Like non-eventful in comparison to how we broke up, which was very dramatic to me. And,
you would think you would think two people who are so passionate would have like a passionate reunion, not a so we're going to do this together, right?
Well, I mean, that came after that little conversation.
Okay, all right.
So after that conversation, then we sat down and had dinner and had drinks, and then, you know, he's like, you want to go in the other room? And I'm like,
that's his move, huh? You want to go in the other room?
I'm like, okay. And then he's kind of like, we're doing this, right? And I'm like, it looks like we are. And I'm like, you're okay with all this? He's like, yeah. And I was like, I thought you said you never wanted to get back together. And because he must have told me at least 10 times through that whole
We're not going to get back
process.
together, right?
We're not getting back together. I just wanted you to know we're not getting back together. We're just friends. I just want to be friends. And I was just like, oh, this is breaking my heart. But, yeah, so then he's like, yeah, well, you know, we both said things we didn't really mean. I'm like, yeah.
We'll take it. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Ex-Boyfriend Recovery Podcast at www.exboyfriendrecovery.com.